Callum here. Welcome back to another episode of Barbells with Banter podcast. Today I am joined by a very special guest, Kim here. That is how we pronounce it, Kim, isn't it? I made sure I was going to get that right.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Perfect. Kim, thank you for coming on. I want to get stuck straight into you because I wanted you on the show because I know I've been following a lot of your work, and I know that you're in the same game as me, helping women rebuild their strength, not only physically but mentally as well, regaining that confidence, particularly with women in sort of in a midlife who sort of have lost a lot of that confidence and might think, oh, it's too late for me to start doing this, and maybe have injuries and hormonal issues, stuff like that. So that's the kind of thing I want to be talking about with you today. So, Kim, tell me a bit about how you got into this. What was that driving factor for you? Because everyone has their own story. Everyone who helps their demographic do things usually has a story of what led them to do it. So tell me a bit about how you got to where you are, Kim.
Yeah, absolutely. So I used to be a journalist, actually, writing stories, traveling the world with my husband, who was a journalist too, from country to country, always looking for something to tell. And then we were in Berlin, and I was 45, 3 kids. I was working full time, looking after the kids. I thought I had reached like a high point in my life. I always wanted a job and kids, and I was brought up, being told that you can have one or the other, not both. I had both, and I thought, great. And then one day I was picking up my kids from school, and I realized that I was seeing double, which is like super scary. Because when you have a little niggle in your back or your knee sort of aches, you can sort of ignore your way through that and think, oh, that's no big deal, it's going to go away. But when you see double, something's wrong in the brain. So I went to the doctors. They sent me to the hospital, and I was going to spend 6 weeks in hospital. They were looking for what was going on with me. They knew it was some kind of autoimmune thing, but they couldn't put their finger on it because my symptoms were all over the place. Yeah. I was seeing double, and after 3 weeks, I was completely paralyzed from the hips downwards. I could not move or not wiggle a toe. They finally made up their mind after I had left hospital, actually, that this was a one-off autoimmune thing called syndrome Guillain-Barré. It comes and goes. Took me 6 weeks. No, it took me 6 months to learn to walk again. I came home after 6 weeks, was in a wheelchair, getting up, then walking on crutches. It was just, my immune system eating away at my own nerves. But then they gave me like a clean bill of health and said, this is a one-off. You can go. You're free to go. You can live your life. And I was super grateful because that had been quite traumatizing, scary. My kids were small, and from one day to the next, you're out of the equation. And for me, that was an important lesson, by the way. It's something that I have always in mind now. You can be out of the equation tomorrow. So make the best of today, whatever it is. But then that was not the end, because after 2 years, we were living in France. By the time I felt my left hand going numb, more tests, I knew it wasn't good. And this time it was different. They said it was the immune system eating away at the white matter, like the substance of the nerves, and that this was MS. And I thought that was like a very unfair low blow, because I had been through that first thing, got over it, felt good, then, another diagnosis. And then what I did was because I had I only have lost sort of sensitivity in my left hand. Otherwise I recovered. And I had this drive. I wanted to get strong. I wanted to build myself back up. I wanted to go to the gym, and I wanted to have a really strong, resilient body. I didn't get much support from my doctor, but then they're not really into this kind of thing. I just started lifting heavy, and I got better and better and better. And at that point, I was thinking I might be onto something. I'd always been like a fitness enthusiast, but this was like really, and I'm not, disclaimer here, I'm not saying you can cure MS with weightlifting, but my whole overall state of mental and physical health improved tenfold. And we moved to Spain. I had another neurologist, and after a while, he said, you can stop your MS treatment. You're really great, and I'm going to support you. Um, without this treatment, I think you can do it. And that's when I thought, oh my God, this is amazing. I got like a second a second gift of life, and I wanted to share that. I wanted to share how you can actually change your quality of life with this simple intervention that is strength training. And that's when I started taking all the courses and the classes and the certifications, and I dropped journalism and I became a coach.
And the thing is, you said something there that completely resonated me, because obviously through what we already know about my journey, I had that same sort of epiphany, which is that, and I've said this for the last couple of years, but I've more so said it recently because there's one thing preaching it, which is that fitness is a treatment for everything. I've always said there is nothing in this world that cannot be, not physical nor mental, no condition that cannot be treated with exercise. And I've said that for a long time, but as we know, similar to yourself, Kim, is I saw it, I witnessed it when I woke up from that surgery, and I saw the other people, the other men on my ward who were struggling. There's a lot of people who've just had the brains hacked into, and I'm just getting up and walking down to the MRI the next morning. That's what fitness did. And when my surgeon come in the next day, grinning like a Cheshire cat, like, yeah, go home, he knew that the reason why I survived that. And I don't even think it was to do with my age. I genuinely think, based on everyone else on the ward, it's because of fitness, and not just exercise, but general fitness. Nutrition throws into that, mindfulness, stuff like that. And we used that word resilience before, and it's very similar to your journey. And it's amazing that you were on medication for an autoimmune condition, and MS is a low blow. That is a hard blow to take. Your nervous system is one thing you don't want to be against you. But that's amazing. The fact that you were on medication, and after changing your life, and the impact on fitness, and especially exercise, and on, in this case on the episode, we're touching really on resistance training, strength training. The fact that you went back and he said, you know what you're doing's working, you can come off that just proves it even more so, doesn't it? That's almost confirms what you believed anyway. That's why you were doing it. So before all this, then, Kim, was you into the fitness side anyway, and then that just helped you, or was it literally something that you got into after all this had happened to you? Was it just something you naturally was transitioning into?
No, I had been into fitness before. I went to gyms, but it was in this spirit of wanting my body to look a certain way, sort of staying fit, like doing it because it's like like brushing your teeth. You just you have to do it, so you go and you do it. I mean, I didn't hate the gym, but I think my motivation was completely different from after I got my diagnosis. After that, I had this singular focus on physical strength, and I wanted to be as strong as possible. And I think singular focus is something that we miss very easily, especially in our day and age where we are so overloaded with information. And that's also what I always say when people say, I just want to eat healthy. That's very vague. If you want to lose weight, you need to focus on eating for losing weight. If you have a special health condition and you want to have an anti-inflammatory diet, then you focus on that. But saying just trying to eat healthy, you need singular focus for your nutrition and for your training in order to have results. And I really like what you said about fitness, and I think this overall fitness, and we're always fit to do something. You're not just fit in general, you're fit to do something. And you could be fit to do like a photo shoot for a magazine and not be very healthy, for example, when you diet yourself down. And the fitness that we're looking for, especially in middle ages. We want to be fit to cope with our daily lives, like easily, joyfully, without pains and aches, without fatigue, without tiredness. And I think this fitness is like the canvas on which we paint our lives. And when we get older and we get diagnoses, like we did, or some women get hit with menopause, we tend to just see like the outmost layer of that painting, and don't realize that the canvas on which we're painting our life, this general fitness to be able to do everything, has been neglected for a long time. And that makes all the things that health and your body throws at you much more difficult to deal with when you don't have that general fitness. So you want to really be very clear on what you want to achieve and how you want your body to function in everyday life.
Yeah, and it's similar to, again, something I picked up on that you said about that realization of how precious life is. We are just small, insignificant specks in the universe, and it doesn't matter what your faith is, whether it's an idea of a creator or not. The reality is we are very, very vulnerable people. And one thing that I realised, a bit similar to what you said before, is it hits you like, whoa, this is how. But I don't know about you, Kim, but I look at it also from. I do practice gratitude a lot, but I do look at it and go, wow, this could have been so much worse than what it was. As unfair as it is, but things like medical conditions, they have no prejudice. They can. That's why there's children that have the same. It's hard for me to feel sorry for myself when I know there's children in a paediatric ward that are having brain surgery. That saddens me. But one thing that I do also agree with what you said is these things can happen anyway. These things, particularly in our case, there was no necessarily causes. It's just the body, it's the immune system. Things go wrong. But imagine if we was unhealthy when that happened. And I think that's kind of what you're saying there, that these things can happen. So you may as well look after your health and fitness, not in case that these things happen, but it's a good idea to do that anyway, because you never know what's coming around the corner. And I think that's one thing that myself and you have learnt from our own experience, and that's what's drove us. But what we're trying to do is convey that message to people day to day and go, look, your body is a temple, and you've got to find a balance. I do agree that people should enjoy life. Yes, eat foods that you enjoy. Have a drink. Do what you get something out of life that you enjoy. But also, you're only on this planet once. Let's just assume, and you are very, very vulnerable in that time that you are here. So, utilizing fitness. I've been preaching it anyway, and I'm sure you have, but experiencing it myself has made me double down on that. I'm kind of like, look, the reason why I'm still up and about walking, the reason why I'm doing this podcast today, is the simple fact that I made it. I was a miracle. So as far as my surgeon's concerned, I wasn't a miracle. I was just an easy patient for him, because I didn't have, I looked after my health. And I think that's what we're not scaremongering as such, but we're perfect examples of, look, anything can happen. So let's look after our bodies, and let's give our body almost, if you will, a fighting chance against anything like that can happen, whether it be autoimmune, whether it be, even something that might be more self-induced, like say type 2 diabetes. It can still be reversed with looking after yourself and general fitness. Kim, I want to talk a bit about the elegant muscle solution and how that came about. Let's talk, let's tap into that a little bit. And so we know, obviously, that you helped yourself with fitness, and particularly the weight training side of things. So what then turned that into a career for you? What made that drive of wanting to help other people do the same?
I had realized that I was onto something in the way that muscle is like a one-stop shop for so many problems that we have. And it's difficult to convey as a message, especially for women, because, we're not brought up to sort of embrace physical strength or being muscular. We're brought up to, we want to be like elegant and pretty and cute. And then most of the time, we are told that we should be like smaller, take up less space, get thinner. Most women you see in the gym, they're there and they're trying to shrink. So explaining that muscle is actually an organ of longevity and health, there's a big cultural threshold that we have to sort of lower and explain that muscle is not about looking like Arnold, that the 70s are, way behind us. And muscle is actually, in my opinion, that's why I call it also the elegant solution. It's an elegant solution because you have to focus on this one thing. And so many other things will fall into place. Your energy levels, your sleep. If you look after your nutrition and sort of dial it in order to help your muscle, grow and stay strong, then your nutritional choices become obvious. And then the big one, and I think that's what helped me so much, is the role that muscle and strength training plays in mental health. And I felt it myself when I had my diagnosis and started working out. And now we have tons and tons of research confirming that. So it's something that is like so obvious, and then it gets overlooked by so many people. I just want to shout it from the rooftop and say, just go and become strong. You don't have to join a gym. You can do calisthenics at home, but look after your muscle, and then most of your other health problems, and I'm talking about midlife stuff, aging stuff, achy joints, bad sleep, all these things, they will go away.
Yeah, it's not as if we're saying that, the cure for everything is to build muscle. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Kim, it's almost a bit like you're saying, it's a bit like a domino effect. So if you can start with that one thing that you can improve on your life, you'll start to notice that things will fall in place for you. It's a knock-on effect, that people, and I think you mentioned going back to the 70s. I mean, granted, I wasn't alive, but even for as long as I've known, and even to this day, I do feel like it's going in the right direction now, especially since COVID. I do feel like there is definitely a rise in women really wanting to shift that focus from just weight loss and trying to be skinny. I hate that word, skinny, but I understand, because that's, if you go back to the 70s and 80s, if you think about media before social media as well, that's what was portrayed. That's what the ideal should be. And same for guys, and then even with social media, special influencers, that hasn't helped. That you need to be, and then we went through that whole size zero thing, and it's like, and then women would get scared of building muscle, and this is still a thing, annoyingly, which is in fear that they're going to get big and bulky, and it's like, that's not going to happen unless you have a hell of a lot of calories, a hell of a lot of protein, and probably some testosterone from somewhere to go like that. But I feel that that's where the stigma is. I feel like, I don't know if you agree, Kim, but I want to. I agree with what you said. I want to shout it from the rooftops about the how incredibly beneficial to not only your physical health for obvious reasons, but mental health, having that building muscle tissue and focusing on building muscle and strength training has. And here's the thing, to a lot of people listening to this, or to guys I'm streaming onto this to as well, because a lot of the people watching this have been my clients for a couple of years. They know this stuff now. They've learned this. But to those that are listening, or to some of you that might be new to this whole fitness thing, let myself and Kim explain to you right now that if you build muscle and focus on building muscle, you will drop fat, because muscle tissue requires. I've used this analogy. You've probably seen it, Kim. I love analogies because it's the best way that I can relay messages to my audience and to my clients that is very simple to understand. There's no point me talking about hypertrophy. No, that word goes over people's head. They don't know what it means, right? But if I say, okay, well, imagine building muscle is like upgrading an engine on a car. You're going from a little 1 litre vehicle to a 2 litre turbo. Okay, you're basically increasing the power, the capacity of the power of that vehicle, but fuel consumption goes up. You'll probably need to put a lot more fuel in that car to handle the power that you want. So building muscle is kind of like that. You're adding tissue, lean muscle tissue. But to hold on to that muscle tissue, your body needs more energy. So therefore, it has to pull energy from somewhere. And your body's very resourceful. It's smart. It will pull calories from fat cells to support muscle. So that's where, there's myths of, muscle tissue eats fat. No, of course it doesn't. But there's some truth to that, in a sense, from a biological process. Is if you're building more muscle tissue, then you're going to you're going to lose body fat. It's going to increase your metabolism, how many calories you burn. But then comes the issue, I think, though, Kim, that I tend to find with that process is then because the diet culture has conditioned people, particularly women, to lose weight quicker. They've got to eat less. They've got to diet, restrictive diets. The process of building muscle doesn't happen because there is no calories for it to even happen to begin with. And that's something that I find I'm constantly teaching people, and I enjoy teaching it, but it's hard. I feel like bashing my head against the wall sometimes with that whole concept of, I have so many people who come into my challenges and my programs, and I'll give them my calorie calculator based just a generic one, and they are very surprised when it tells them how many calories they can eat a day, because they're eating 1,200 calories, and it's like, oh, suddenly I can eat up to 2,000. Yes. And I think it's hard as a fitness professional to try and go, look, calorie deficit is definitely what you need to lose fat. However, you can't be in too much of a calorie deficit because you won't lose fat. And it's mind-boggling. People are like, what? Well, which one do I do? So I think, Kim, what I say is, do you know what? Focus on one thing, that first domino, and go, let's just focus on starting somewhere. And for most people, I would always recommend, the first thing I get my clients to do is just get walking. It's still a form of exercise. There's some resistance there, particularly in the legs. It's good for your cardio and it's good for your mental health, and it will just get that engine fired up. But then start doing some resistance training, because yes, it's going to take longer than just running 5K every day to lose weight or just simply restricting your calories. But as you touched on earlier before, Kim, it's that the mental, all the feel-good chemicals that are released when you're doing a workout, that short pain that you'll feel, that burn. I have so many people that finish their workouts and they'll check into my page and go, that felt amazing. Punishing my body like this felt amazing. But that's nature's way of strengthening, though, Kim, isn't it? It's like you have to go through momentarily discomfort to get to where you need to be.
Absolutely. Growth is always linked to some kind of stress. So you sort of stress the body, you put load on it. It has to deal, it has to cope with this, and then it has to recover. And that's really also very important. Recovery is crucial, and it becomes stronger. There's so much good stuff in what you said. I want to say, first of all, the most amazing effect that I see in my clients is they start working out, and most of them start doing 15 minutes a day. At home, just the simplest way of starting. So there's no gym bag to pack, no traffic to drive through, no wondering about what to wear. They can do that in their pajamas in the morning. They do that, and after 2 weeks, all of them come back and say, oh my God, I have so much energy. How is that even possible? So you expend energy and you get it back manifold, because that's how your body functions. And that's just that creates so much momentum. You feel so good about yourself, and you realize, I can do this. I can do something. I can actually change my life. I can change my body, and I don't have to go running for an hour every day. I don't have to, spend hours or eat only leafy greens and things like that. It's actually much simpler than people think. It is not necessarily easy, because is a change of lifestyle, and our brain will always say, change is not good. I know it's uncomfortable where we are, but better the devil you know. And so that's why I also, sort of boiled it down to 15 minutes to make the resistance of our brain as little as possible as you can do it. And then it really snowballs from there, and it's the knock-on effects, like you said, and it's so much simpler than you think. And all the information out there about the stuff that you should do, should not do, and then women, when they want to lose fat, they Google and what can you do, what kind of exercise you do for fat loss, and they find HIIT training, high intensity interval training, which is a great tool. It's a great tool for people who are in shape, but it's not a good tool for people who want to get in shape. And if you try that and you haven't, you have no skill level, no experience, you're going to get frustrated and discouraged. So what I think is really important in this is like you said, you want to start somewhere, something, but you want to start today. Make it as small as it needs to be. It doesn't matter. As long as you're doing something, when you take a step in the right direction, that's what counts, the direction. It's much more important than speed. If you go very fast, but you move in circles, you're not getting anywhere. If you take one step at a time in the right direction, then you are moving towards your goal without any doubt. There's nothing can get in the way.
And I think that's a problem that humans have in general, right? Which is that they're wanting to go from 0 to 100 as quickly as possible. And what I respond to people is, for most people that will come to me and probably come to you, Kim, is especially mums, etc., who have tried all these different diets in the past. I tend to say to them, look, most people who come into my challenges and the people I'm streaming to here today will probably be nodding, because this will be them. But most people didn't get to a point where they're that unhappy with their own body weight or body image, self-confidence, that they've had to sign up to something like this to begin with, to work with us. That didn't happen in a couple of months. Okay, sometimes I'll get a lot of new mums that, yes, the stress of obviously of labour, they've now become postpartum, and it's like, oh, now I've got a lot of baby weight to lose. Outside of that, but for the most part, people have got to the point slowly to where they're unhappy. But for some reason, Kim, they think that they can undo it all as quickly as possible. And it's understood. We want to get, for a lot of people, get back to where they used to be, where they're at the most confident, or for some people, to where they've never been before, where they, for some people that may have never had body confidence before or self-confidence. But my response is, things take time. No journey is linear. But as Kim said just before, it's, even if you just go slowly. So you said something before, Kim, about the 15 minutes. So is that something you'd recommend to people? If someone's listening to this going, look, I hear what you're saying, guys, I just don't know where to start. Perhaps they've got a busy lifestyle. We both work with mums, so most of our clientele and our audience are going to be parents. Might have multiple kids that, they just say, I haven't got time to scratch myself, let alone find a workout. So what would you say to someone in that case? And I was also going to touch a little bit about the HIIT training and resistance training as well, because I completely agree with you. You kind of already have to be fit to do HIIT. It's a bit like CrossFit. But in certain situations, people might not have access to a gym. They might not be able to afford equipment or have space at home. So what would be, taking that into mind then, let's say someone came to you and said, I hear what you're saying, Kim, but I don't have much space, I don't have much time, I don't have much money, I don't know where to begin. What would be your best advice for someone in that situation?
Well, the very annoying answer to this is it depends. I think it really does depend on your physical status. I think that's the most important first step that you need to take. You need to assess, where you are at, what can you do, and it's not difficult. You don't have to go and see a PT and pay £100 for him to assess you. Just check in on yourself. Can you get down on the floor and back up easily? Can you tie your shoelaces without sitting down? Can you take your carry-on bag and put it into the overhead locker? If you can do all those things, then you're good to go, and you can start on a calisthenics program. You can do some wall push-ups at home. You can do some squats, and you don't need space for that. You can do some core work like planking and stuff, and start with 5 minutes. Do it at home. Do these 3 exercises like wall push-ups and squats and some planking. Take 5 minutes and start there. That's like totally doable. And I think everybody's got 5 minutes and even 15 minutes. And then another thing that I really think everybody should do, and I know it seems very difficult for many people, but if you insist and if you're very intentional, you can do it, which is walk as much as you can every day. It's good for de-stressing, and I think we were meant to be moving all day long. That's how we evolved as a species. So our natural level, our baseline of movement should be that we move most of the time during the day. And that's when we will be like normally healthy. It's not like we're sitting all day and then when we go for a walk, we get better. If we don't walk, we will get worse. There's no doubt about that. And then there's also something that I tend to say, because it's so easy to sort of give in or give up. I know it's hard to insist that you need to walk. You're stuck to your desk and your computer all day long. You need to drive to get your kids from school, and the whole world is set up for us not to move. But if you change your mindset and realize that you need to fight for your right to move, then you can sort of build little sections into your day, little moments where you walk around the block, where you park the car further from the entrance to the supermarket, whatever it is. If you wait for the world to give that movement to you, somehow it's not going to happen. Everything is built for us to be sat on our backside, getting food delivered to our mouth, and work at the computer and not move. So if you want that, you have to get into that mindset of, I'm going to fight for this right of mine because I have the right to be healthy. But move is something that you want to do all the time.
Yeah, and the very first task that I set my challenges, my clients on any program is always the same. Move. Get moving. Set a step count, get moving. And like you said, our human biology, we were designed, to move, to walk. Okay, as our primitive brain, our survival instincts expect that. It's what allowed us to evolve for centuries and get to the point where we are now to create these tools. But we weren't designed to sit down at a desk for 8 to 12 hours. Not only is that not good for our posture anyway, but as you said before, mentally, we owe it to our body to go and get that energy. And we touched a bit about calories before and energy, and that's something else that I'll say to people when they say, oh, well, my calorie calculator says I can have a lot more, but I couldn't possibly eat that much. My response is, because you're not giving your body a reason to crave that many calories in the first place. But what tends to happen is people might be having a 1,200 calorie, 1,300 calorie diet, but then they're not moving. They're doing the things you just mentioned. They're sat down, they can order food, they can binge watch entire series on Netflix and not have to get up and go anywhere throughout a day. Or they might be working where they're sat down, again, not enough function. Well, of course, you don't need that many calories because you're not going out and getting that purpose. But then suddenly when people have come onto a challenge or a program where I'm giving them walking, I'm getting them to do exercises now, and they might be doing 3 to 4 workouts, even if it's 15-minute ones, whether that be HIIT or going to the gym, that's giving your body reason to go, oh, now I can eat more calories, and guess what? You're not going to gain body fat with that because your body's going to use those calories to supplement what you've just done. But then you have the mental health and the feel-good chemicals, serotonin, dopamine that are released as well. One of my favourite things, Kim, is, I own a gym, and yes, people will work with me primarily for reasons of fat loss. Okay, sure, it's similar to yourself, and I won't say, oh, well, why are you bothered about fat loss? I'll go, okay, that's cool. That's what you want. That's what we'll go. But my job satisfaction actually comes when people start working with me and they realise fat loss suddenly isn't as important as it was. It was their driving factor. It was the main thing. I just want to look good. I want to lose weight. I want to lose weight. Fine, that's absolutely fine. But what my job satisfaction comes from is when people will have it, even short term, they'll do a session at the gym, and I'll have people come to me. Yes, weight loss is great. And I love to celebrate people's wins if that's what's important to them. In the same sense as I love to celebrate people's PBs, right? On a deadlift and a plank, that's great as well. But we're talking just mental here. When people walk into a session at my gym and they'll come in and they'll be like, I've had a bad day, I'm not really fit. It's took me everything just to turn up. There's that word, turn up, today. Give them a session, bit of resistance training, maybe a bit of cardio. And you know what? When they walk out of that gym and they turn around to me and they go, I needed that today, thank you. That's my job satisfaction. Because it's not about the weight loss, great. It's not even about the setting personal bests or lifting heavier or even, you mentioned planks before, holding a plank score. Those are all fantastic achievements. But it's when people realise, and that's where I see it, the power of exercise, and more specifically resistance training. We can throw a bit of cardio and walking in there as well, but that's very, very entry level. I'm talking about full-on resistance training, weightlifting, which is a lot of things that most women are scared to do, still, even in 2024, because they think that's going to be the opposite to weight loss, when that's actually not the truth. It's the way to achieve sustainable weight loss. And people can lose weight all the time. People can do diets, they can restrict the calories, they can, go on this diet, that diet, and then sit down, and they might lose a lot of weight. They might lose 10 pounds, 12 pounds in a couple of weeks. But then, as we know, they tend to gain it back on again because the long-term goal wasn't really thought of. They just, and this is what I said before about people want to go from 0 to 100 and they want it. Humans want instant gratification for less input. But because of that, because of these diets, they're not appreciating the journey that got them that result to begin with. So I will say to people, yeah, it's fine. You can restrict your calories, that is the formula of weight loss, undeniably. You can restrict your nutrition, and you might lose a bit of weight short term, but you've not appreciated the journey to get there because all you've done is restrict. And this is why I say, and I'm sure you're the same, Kim, I'm about implementation, not restriction. I want people to get results by adding habits that they enjoy, that they never thought they would enjoy, and then they're more likely to keep that off. And there's a reason why some of my clients that have worked with me for 2 to 3 years are 3 stone down. But it wasn't, like we said before, it wasn't a straight linear journey. They had ups and downs. They had times where they didn't do great, times where they may have gone on holiday, let themselves go a bit. But ultimately, they are very different now to the person he was 2 years ago. And suddenly, and this is what I mentioned before, Kim, if I ask those clients that have been working with me for 2 years or more, I can guarantee you weight loss isn't even the most important thing to them anymore, like it was when they first joined. Now, they're feeling confident, they're feeling stronger, they can keep up with the kids, and then when we tying up with the stuff we spoke about at the start of the episode, which is when health conditions start to come into play or risk factors and injuries, now they feel on top of the world. They feel like bring it on because they've discovered fitness. And it sounds like we're singing from the same hymn book here, Kim, which is great because I love to bring people on to relay the message that I am conveying and go, look, this is the stuff that works, guys. It's not short, it's not fast, it's not a fast approach, but it's an enjoyable journey if you get on board. And like Kim said before, you just start with something small and then gradually build up to enjoy the process.
Absolutely. You're saying it I couldn't say it any differently. You need to fall in love with the process to make it work. Otherwise, you don't really stand a chance of sustaining your results. And going back to the car analogy that you mentioned, if you go on a restrictive diet for 2 weeks or even 2 months, you're actually downgrading your engine.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. And then you're filling, the up with the same kind of fuel and the same amount of fuel, and your engine doesn't need that much anymore. That's why people not only gain the weight back, but they gain back more than they lost. And I find this so heartbreaking, so frustrating. And there's women who do that every year. I had a friend every month of May, she would just live on broth to be like ready for summer. And the next year, beginning of May, was going to be the same. I also want to touch again briefly on this the subject of women and lifting weights, or women in resistance training, because that is still like a bit of a battlefield. And I think what you're describing is your job satisfaction, and I feel exactly the same. We want people to wonder not so much how is this going to make me look, whether this is weight loss or women who are afraid of bulking up. Why should your very first question when you're thinking about a change of lifestyle, why should your very first question be, how is this going to make me look? I think the very first question should be, how is this going to make me feel? And then the answer is very clear. It's going to make you feel just amazing. And it's going to make you feel amazing basically from day one, because that effect comes on right away. And I have so many clients, they come in, they have this kind of fetish number on the scale that they want to see again, because that's what they were in their 30s, or that's what they were at a certain point in their life when they felt particularly happy, and they want to get to that number again. And most of the time, over the weeks of training and becoming stronger, it fades into the background, this goal. It's more about, wow, I could get this done. Wow, I feel so much better. Oh, I stand taller already. And, like you said, I needed that today. Thank you. This amazing sentence that someone says when they had a bad day, they trained with you and they feel better. Same thing. Yes, they lose 10 pounds and they're happy and they love it, but they get their first push-up or they get their first pull-up. That's like real, true, deep joy and fulfillment that you can see like in their eyes. And that's, what I love most, when someone has like a strength moment and say, oh my God, I can do this. This is fantastic.
Sorry, I had it on mute there while you were talking, just because of the builders. For those of you who might be listening, I've got some builders outside my house at the minute, and I don't want you. While Kim is politely talking and sharing her knowledge bombs with us, I don't want it ruined by the builders. But by the sounds of things, they're packing up now, so we're good to go. But I completely agree, Kim, and like you added onto that car analogy, and that's what people are missing. I think it's okay dieting and trying to restrict your calories. And this is a problem I have with restriction. Yes, to lose fat, we do need to be burning more calories than we consume on a daily basis. We all know that now. This is school stuff, okay? The reason why weight loss is so hard, and I think Kim just nailed that there, guys, is exactly what we just talked about with that analogy. If you are dieting, your metabolism is slowing down with it. You are essentially downgrading your engine size, not increasing it. So then, when it stops working, and then the mental side of it kicks in, you give up because, this isn't working anymore. Then what do? Because we give up, we go back to the old eating habits. Suddenly we're not on broth anymore. Suddenly we're back to pizzas and burgers. But now, because you've slowed your metabolism down, because you were starving yourself for a couple of weeks to lose that bit of weight short term, now your body has lost muscle tissue, because a lot of the time it loses water first, then it will lose fat. But if it's too much extreme diet, it's just going to go straight to muscle, because your body is very resourceful and it won't hold on to something that it doesn't need. The thing is with muscle is it is use it or lose it. And normally I hate that term, but that is essentially what muscle tissue is. your body will hold on to muscle tissue if it needs to hold on to muscle tissue, because if not, it considers it a waste of resource, a waste of energy. Your body is very resourceful. It will try and survive, and it will preserve energy where it needs to. So let's say you've done a diet, like Kim mentioned before, and suddenly you're restricting your calories. Now your engine's shrunk and your body's gone, well, I don't need that. So that's basically what my take is on that bit. So we have, I want to touch a little bit more, Kim, on your services and how where people can find a bit more about yourself, and sort of go and check you out a little bit, and give you a follow and follow your content.
Yeah, so if you have questions, want to ask me something, you can find me on Facebook, on Instagram, all with my name, Kim Rahir. You can also go to my website, kimrahir.com, and on there you'll find a free assessment. It's a strength and health assessment. I work from a concept of deep health, so I'm not only asking you, can you do 5 push-ups, where you can get a really good picture of where you're at in your life, in your physical situation right now. So it's a holistic questionnaire, and once you fill that in, I give you some tips and hints on what you could do next, what could be your next step, because I think it's really important to find the right entry point for your exercise journey in order not to get bored or overwhelmed. You want to start exactly where you are at, and with that questionnaire on my website, kimrahir.com, you can find out where that is.
Fantastic. Make sure you go and give that a check out, guys. Guys that I'm streaming live to, obviously, if you're listening on podcasts, you can go and do that. Feel free to send me any emails, which I can relay on to Kim, and she will happily answer. And for those that I'm streaming live onto, guys, if you have any questions for myself or Kim, whilst we have her here, related to exercise or anything we've spoken about, feel free to post them in the comments and we'll cover them. But in the meantime, I wanted to touch a little bit more about what's next for you, Kim, as far as, obviously, we know, just like myself, we encountered some health problems, and that led to a great discovery in fitness and, like myself, strength training. Because the thing is, I tend to prefer the type of training that I don't necessarily give people, and the reason is because for my online groups, a lot of my audience and clients, they don't have access to a gym. They might be scared of going to the gym, and perhaps all the things I mentioned before, they don't have the space, they don't have the money for equipment, and just like you touched on before, Kim, it doesn't even have to. I wanted to add on to what you said about doing 15 minutes squats, incline push-ups, things like that. But what sometimes I've said to people, you know what, you can do them throughout the day. It doesn't even have to be 15 minutes. You could literally tie it in with functional training. What you're doing, perhaps you've had a little break from work. You've got up to go make yourself a coffee, or a cup of tea, popular here over in the UK. You're waiting for the kettle to boil or the coffee filter machine to go through. That gives you a few minutes. Guess what? You could be doing some squats. Or you could be doing some incline push-ups against the table or against your kitchen side whilst your coffee's being made. And if you did that every time that you went to make a hot drink, before you know it, you've done 100 push-ups and 100 squats throughout the day. It doesn't have to be in a 15-minute window. And that's something I wanted to add, because I like what you were saying before, Kim, about that starting small. But I wanted to add that you don't even have to do it all in once. You could tie it in with your day. Even if you have an office job, you work from home, get up, go and make, on your coffee break, a few squats. If you're working in an office in front of people, perhaps you don't want to do that, but there's always something you can do. And then we'll revert back to what we said before. Just walk, But so we've talked a little bit about how it's impacted our journeys. It's helped us. So what's next for you, Kim? Like, obviously you've combated your own personal battles as well, and you've managed to not only help yourself with the power of fitness, but you're also now helping other people do the same, which is fantastic. What's next for the life of Kim Rahir then? What you got on the cards?
Well, I'm actually quite excited. 5 years back when I was lifting in the gym normally, and then because I had a personal trainer who introduced me to Olympic weightlifting, I
Brilliant.
started Olympic weightlifting, then joined a pure weightlifting club where there's like no music, no mirrors, just like iron and lots of weights and a trainer who tells you what to do. And I started competing in Olympic weightlifting. And because I'm 60 and I lift pretty well, I can compete on an international level. So in 3 weeks, I'm traveling to Norway, the European Championship of Masters Weightlifting, which is what I'm training for all week now. Getting ready, sleeping lots, eating right, looking after the weight because, it's a sport with weight categories. And if you eat a pizza the day before weigh in, you might not make your category. So I'm really excited about that. So it's a bit similar to what you're saying, because I'm not training my clients in Olympic weightlifting, but I think I can inspire them, by doing this. This is like an explosive strength sport, and I'm a 60-year-old woman. So it just gives you an idea of, what you can do, and that you don't have to limit yourself by ideas of your age or your gender or whatever it is. If you start something today,
Mm.
you can get somewhere you would never have expected. So that's what's up for me. And yeah, it's quite exciting, and it's something. Um, it is scary and exhilarating at the same time to step
Mm.
out on that platform when they call your name, but it's something
Brilliant.
that's it makes you feel so alive.
And I think it's good to feel scared. I think it's good to feel nervous or something like that. It's feeling something, and that's the thing. That's the evolution. I've watched so many. I've worked with so many people that have done that. They started not necessarily having, with a health scare like myself or yourself have been in, but let's just say, they've started off not in a great position. They might have injuries or other conditions that have put them off a little bit, and they initially just wanted to lose weight to help that. But then I've watched so many people now, like, oh yeah, and now I'm going to go run. I'm going to go. I've signed myself up for a marathon, or I've signed myself up for a weightlifting, or like even what do you call it, like an obstacle course. Where you go and do. We have a lot of them here, obstacle runs, which may only be small, but that's something they never would have done before. Suddenly
Yes.
now they can, Um, awesome. Well, Kim, thank you very much. I wanted to wrap up with this because one of the things that we're talking about in my Shape with Sully group is about exercise variety, and I wanted to get your final thoughts on this because we've touched a lot on strength training, and I completely agree that is the way forward. What would be your top few recommendations to get variety in there, whether it be cardio? You mentioned before about Olympic lifting, which I love, by the way. What would be sort of your best forms of variety there as far as exercise is concerned? That's adaptable to anyone, because I appreciate some people might not be at that stage yet where they can do Olympic lifting. Some people might find walking and cardio great, but perhaps they've got heart problems where they should steer away from cardio a little bit. So, just in general, in your experience, what would be your most varied top three, let's say, exercises to get that people can make a start on to push that first domino?
Yeah, okay, I will. I want people to. I recommend people train movements, not muscles. I know it sounds weird because we always say you want to build muscle, but you build muscle by training movements that are useful every day. So my very first choice would be some kind of squatting, and hip hinging. So that could be, well, we squat every day. We go to the toilet, we sit down in chairs and stuff, and
Yeah.
you could do that. Um, in an intentional way, maybe lowering yourself onto the chair very, very slowly, things like this. Just become aware of the
Yeah.
kind of movement you do in your day. My second choice is always pulling, because we're always hunched over, always like these frontal beings, and
Yeah.
if you want to pull to open everything up.
Mm.
And those pulling movements could be anything. You could, start pulling your grocery cart or across the parking lot just to get that feeling. Or you could get elastic resistance in your home and tie it to something and then just pull away once in a while. So squatting, pulling, and then I think any kind of whole body movement where you walk or you cycle. I think you can actually look for little movement challenges in your everyday life. How about, I don't know if that's even still possible technically, but could you get up to change the channel on your TV? Could you take a walk around the sofa before you go back to the kitchen? Could you take the stairs instead of the elevator? I think looking for challenges and like fighting for the right to move and move as much as you can. I think that's the best thing you can do.
Wow. Kim, that was better than I was even hoping for from you there, especially those small little bits, those little tips, because that's it, guys. We had a lot of likes and loves on the Facebook stream for that. We've not had any questions, but as you were saying that, a lot of people were responding to that because of how simple it is, and I think it resonated with a lot of people. A couple of laughs. I think that was when you mentioned if it's even possible to turn the TV off anymore. I think some TVs don't even have buttons anymore, so you have to.
I don't think they do. Yeah.
No, just it's okay. Put your remote somewhere near the TV, but you still have to get up. Kim, thank you very much. Thank you very much for jumping on. I know you're going to get off, but I've appreciated you coming on today. It's always refreshing to speak to someone who, like myself, is preaching from the same hymn book. Not only are we talking about this stuff, but we have experienced this. We've witnessed this firsthand, the power, the true power of fitness, especially exercise, especially strength training from a long-term goal. And it's always refreshing to speak to someone who has those same core values and wants to share. And as you said, scream it from the top of the rooftop. Where can people give you a quick follow on social media? What's your handle there? Is it on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok? If you're on TikTok, TikTok's a bit of a funny one.
Instagram and Facebook, and it's with my name, Kim Rahir, that you can find me. And if you have any questions, just message me, and I'll be happy to answer.
Absolutely. Guys, I know in the UK time, as we've streamed this, it's the afternoon, so I know a lot of people have been watching, but I know a lot of people are at work, so they're kind of just catching on. But I will... please forward your comments over. I can always send them over to Kim and she can answer later. And for those of you listening on audio on the podcast, feel free to send myself an email at info@csullypersonal.training.com or go and give myself and Kim a follow and just ask us directly. We'll be happy to answer. Kim, thank you very much for your wisdom today. It's been very, very good. And I look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for the great work that you do.
No problem. Take care.